Hello, my friend. Welcome back to Mulenge Speaks. This is John Kapapi here, your host. Today we're gonna tackle video number 11. I know you may have had some issues with the number, but forgive me because I know that I had some one clip had two sections. I believe section 6, clip 6 had section A and B, so we counted it as 7 and 8. But today we are tackling clip number 11. But in case you have missed or you don't understand yet the purpose of Mulenge Speaks project, here it is again. I'm gonna repeat it again to you. The purpose of Mulenge Speaks project is to debunk the lies, the deception, and the propaganda propagated by the Banyarwanda of Tutsi subgroup living in Eastern Kivu, DRC, over the concept and neologism of Mulenge. In other words, the Banyarwanda go around claiming that Mulenge is their ancestral land, and because of that they need to be written in the history of the Congo as Congolese of origin. But what they forget that the constitutions and witnesses to the history of the Congo Free State, the Belgium Congo, and the present Congo still exist. And so the proprietors of the place and the name Mulenge are all asking them to drop it, to drop that concept, to drop that name, and to stop claiming, to stop deceiving people around the world that they are the owner of that name. So the Bafulero, the Bavira, the Babembe, the Barega, and the Banyindu are asking the Banyarwanda to drop that name. That name is an ancestral heritage from our forefathers. That name is linked to our history, our tradition, values. And they are encouraging them, they are advising them. Look, there is nothing wrong of being called Banyarwanda Congolese. We know people around the world are called. In America, people are called Asian American, Canadian American, but they still have the same right. You don't need, or you don't have to be an indigenous tribe to be a Congolese. That's the purpose of Mulenge Speaks. But let's go back to our clip of today. Remember that the last time I ended with the question, how did the Banyarwanda or Rwanda ended up in the Vira kingdom or the Vira country? When did they leave the Bafulero country, and where did they settle in the Bavira country? When did they start crossing into the Bavira country? Did they come as individual families or as a community of refugees running again from the Bafulero, like they were running from the Rwabugiri king in the Rwandan kingdom? Why are not the Bahutu and the Batwa with them? Because they used to belong to the same clan. Back in Rwanda and the surrounding kingdoms, they used to belong the same clan. So why are not the Hutu and the Batwa or the Pygmies with them in Eastern Congo? All those questions will be answered. So take time, we'll go slowly. But one of the answers that you need to know before we continue to go forward is that the authors or researchers that we have been calling as witness in our presentation, namely here George West and Jacques de Pelchen were very clear, and both agreed that the Banyarwanda are and were semi-nomadic people. And Merriam-Webster dictionary defined a semi-nomadic person as a member of a people living usually in portable or temporary dwellings and practicing seasonal migration, but having a base camp at which some crops are cultivated. So we will see, as they are crossing into the Bavira land or country, they just left the Bavira land, now they are crossing into the Bavira country. Where they go, do they settle there or they continue to move? Because that's how the Banyarwanda are. That's how our forefathers knew them. That's how our fathers knew them. They are always on the move. It is now, these days, that now they are trying to settle down because they cannot go across the Burega territory because they will end up into Maniema or into Kasai. So since they cannot go, they can no longer go on the other side, so they are trying to settle down now to become sedentary. But a kingdom does not move that way. How long we have been having the kingdom of Rwanda? For so many centuries. How many we have been having the kingdom of the Bafulero? So many centuries. The same thing for the kingdom of the Bavira, so many centuries. The kingdom does not move. You cannot displace a kingdom from one place to another one. But the Banyarwanda are moving, are constant moving. And so when they cross into the Bavira territory, or the Bavira country, as we will see, where they arrive, few years later, they move. Sometimes they take the whole village, move. So to give you a picture, I remember that last time I showed you the picture at page 10, 110 of George West. He shows the villages, the country, the Vira countries, and I showed you the interior of the country. But now you're going to allow me to show you another map, another map at page 143. This map here is showing the limitation of what we call Territoire d'Uvira, because when you hear Territoire d'Uvira or Uvira, Uvira means the combination of the two territories, the two ancient kingdoms, the kingdom of Bavira and the kingdom of Fulero. That's what comprise the territory of Uvira. So we see the same way, we see like Tanganyika. We see here it says Chefferie de Bafulero. And then there's a frontier here, there's a border there, it says Chefferie de Bavira. So we have Bafulero country, Bavira country. Then we have, on this side, we have Mwenga. We have Kabare, which is in the north. That's Bashi territory. So Bashi territory, Mwenga, that's Barega. At the south here, we have, with this border here, we have the Babembe. Then we have the Bavira and the Bafulero here. And we have this side on the east is the Lake Tanganyika. So again, in this map here, West is clear that there is no Banyarwanda ancestry in this area. At least in the term of geographical area, there is no Banyarwanda territory. But though they were living inside the Bafulero and Bavira territory, but they don't have a land, as we are shown here on this page 143. And so West divide the country, the Bavira country, into 4 levels, because as if you have never been to Uvira, Uvira is a land that has a plain at the bottom and we have a hills. That's what they call plateau, because all that land that the Banyarwanda are claiming is all called the plateau for Itombwe. But don't confuse with Itombwe, as a place, but the area, because of the mountain and hills, is called Plateau de Tombwe. And so West divided the country, the Bavira country, in two levels. At the bottom, the plain of Lake Tanganyika, he starts from there. And then he says that 16 villages are at that level. Then on the second level, that's between 900 meters and 2,000 meters of altitude, we have 31 villages. Then we have the third level, toward the hills or the plateau, we have 4 villages, Rwanda, between 2,000 and 2,200 meters of altitude. Then after that, we have a desert, what he called the Muhulu Desert, between 2,200 meters and 3,500 meters of altitude. And then after that, we have the occidental border of the Sheferi. That means the border of Sheferi of Bavira, the country of Bavira country, and the Mwenga country. At the border, that's the end of the plateau for the Bavira side. There we have 4 more villages. And in each of these villages, the Bavira, the Bafulero, the Banyindu, the Babembe live in those villages. The only difference is that the 4 villages of Bavira, Banyarwanda, which he called the 4 village Rwanda, the Banyarwanda were many because that's where they concentrated. And they concentrated in the 4 villages, Kishembwe, Munanira, Gali, and Kataka. And then at that place, they had a kapita. A kapita, which is the chef de village, which was called Budugule. So that's how the territoire d'Uvira is divided. It's divided in 2 parts. On the north, the Bavira, the Bafulero, and on the south, the Bavira. And then in the Bavira side, we have 4 levels: the Piemo, the plain, the Piemo, the Haut Versant, the Mudule, the Muhulu Desert, and toward the end of the Sheferi at the border with the Barega territory. So in 1954, so far, we have the groupement of that are divided, the subdivision of the Sheferi with their names, and there is nowhere in their books, West and the Pelchin, there is nowhere where they indicate that there was another country, there was another kingdom, or there was another groupement. As you will see down, the Banyarwanda will try to convince you that if you see or you hear a name groupement inside the book or the text, it means a subdivision, an administrative subdivision, but not. But we'll explain that later. So when the Banyarwanda crossed into the Bavira country as individuals, that's what the Pelchin says at page 33 of his PhD paper. And the others crossed into the Bavira territory as individual, period. But they were not crossing as community of people running away. So they were crossing one by one, sometimes a family of 3, a family of 5, a family of 10. And sometimes just individuals, but not a community, the whole country moving from one place to another, or like refugees, the flags of refugees running from one place to another. So, for example, when George West writes that, I quote, "The descendants of these immigrants crossed into the Vira country and settled at Gali, Munanira, Kishembwe, Kalonge, Kataka, above the Vira village, and dispersed their 11,000 cattle's heads far toward the region of Luemba." You can find that at page 148. What he does not say, he does not give us the detail of how they got these 11,000 cattle heads. But the good news is that the Persian does. So if you want to understand the Banyarwanda history or the Banyarwanda settlement into these two countries, into these two kingdoms, you have to have both books together. You have to read the Persian book, PhD, the thesis, the PhD paper, and you have to read the book of George West. So while George West is saying that the Banyarwanda crossed into the Bavira territory and settled into these 4 villages, and then after a while they had 11,000 cattle, and they dispersed them toward the west. I mean, going toward the Minembwe and Bijombo and Kianjovu and Itombwe. The Persian is giving a reason why and where those 11,000 cattle head came from. We'll see that in the next clip. Even the number of the Banyarwanda now present in these 4 villages, Gali, Kishembwe, Mnanira, Kalonge, are not proportionate to the number of Bavira who surround them and the number of cattle they are thought to be responsible for. Again, the Persian gives an answer to the source of those cattle. Because remember, they are living in the Bavira territory, in the Bavira country, and there are only 4 villages where they are concentrated, but there are other villages, as I showed you in the map, in the previous map. We have 5 groupements, 5 subdivisions of the Bavira country, and those subdivisions or those groupements, they are not empty. People live there, so they are concentrated in these 4. And then imagine now only 4 villages having 11,000 cattle. So we'll explain later. So just take time. We'll explain later where did these 11,000 cattle came from. Otherwise, imagine in Africa in 1950s, a group of people are passing through other villages, other kingdom, other country with 11,000 cattle, and nothing happened. And even though they already lived in the Bafulero country, and now they are moving around. So we explain what that movement meant and where did they get those 11,000 cattle. And also remember that it was just toward the end of 1900 that quelques familles de pasteurs Tutsis fuyant le Rwanda traversaient la Rusizi, pénétraient au Congo belge. In English it says, some family of pastoralist Tutsi flying Rwanda crossed the Rusizi River and entered the Belgium Congo, and at page 118 that's what he conclude. George West conclude. Their establishment is recent. The first Rwanda arrived at Gali in 1881, then 1 man and 2 women in 1884. The Rwanda added to an ancient couch of Vira, ou ancienne couche de Vira, as it will be shown later in this chapter. They are yet badly fixed. Out of the 73 men and 48 women interviewed at Gali, 41 men and 11 women were born in the village. 8 men and 27 women arrived before 1930. 2 men and 2 women between 1930 and 1939. 12 men and 18 women between 1940 and 1949. 10 men and 28 women between 1950 and 1954. Third quarter of the inhabitants were born in the village. The Rwanda abandoned or leave easily the hut, their hamlet, or even the entire village. For example, Kataka in 1952, to go and increase the workforce in other neighboring villages, or just immigrate to the border of the Sheferi. This is what West is saying at page 118. So even at that particular time in 1952, those people were living in Kataka. Remember, Kataka is one of the 4 villages where they settled. they abandoned the whole village and moved forward. And here, West is given the list of people who were interviewed in that time, 1954, and then he's showing how individual Banyarwanda were coming into the Bavira land with the date, the year they were coming in. So we cannot say that at this particular time, and all these are still called Banyarwanda in the 50s. We'll see also in the 60s. We'll see also in the 70s, they're still being called Banyarwanda. And we'll see later that there are others that were added to this number. Even the colonial authorities settled some 2,000 to 3,000 people, Bavira, Bafulero, and Banyarwanda together in other part of the Bavira territory. But how can they claim that they are ancient? How can they claim that they are indigenous? How can they claim an ancestral land when all these years we are showing that they have been coming one after another, one family after another family? And then we also will show that as they were coming in, they were coming with some cattle that many of them did not belong to them. We'll explain that later, and we'll show you who those cattle belong to. So in French, the same chapter, the same page, it says l'implantation est récente. Le premier Rwanda est arrivé à Gali en 1881, puis un homme et deux femmes en 1884. Les Rwandais se sont superposés à une souche vira beaucoup plus ancienne, comme le montrera plus précisément l'étude historique dans le chapitre suivant. Ils sont encore mal fixés. Why? Puisque ce sont des peuples nomades. Why are they badly fixed? Because they are semi-nomadic people. They move constantly around for search of green pasturage. So, the author continue here. Ils sont encore mal fixés. Si 73 hommes et 48 femmes interrogés à Gali, 41 hommes et 11 femmes sont nés au village, 8 hommes et 27 femmes sont venus avant 1930, 2 hommes et 2 femmes entre 1930 et 1939, 12 hommes et 18 femmes entre 1940 et 1949, 10 hommes et 26 femmes entre 1950 et 1954. Les tiers des habitants est né au village. Les Rwandais abandonnent facilement des hameaux et même des villages entiers. Par exemple, Kataka en 1952, pour grossir l'effectif des villages voisins ou émigrer vers la frontière de la chefferie. So when George West says at page 116 and 117 that the 4 village Rwanda formed until 1953 one group, Budulege, he does not say that this group is synonymous with les groupements, because in English or in grammar, one and the has different or give different meaning. When I say in French un groupement, and when I say in French les groupements, those are two different things. The same way in English when I say a groupement, or one group, and then when I say the group, so one is indefinite, another one is defined, the other one is not defined. So we'll see that what it means, because later in his writing he wrote that Budulege here was a capita. That means he was a chief of village. Il était le chef de village, il n'était pas le chef de groupement. Because we show earlier that this territory, the Bavira territory, had 5 groupements, was subdivided into 5 subgroup or sub-country. But this group here is not a subdivision of the country. It means that Budulege here was in charge of all the Tutsi or all the Banyarwanda who were living in these 4 villages. But when you go around, the Banyarwanda will tell you, no, we had a groupement in 1954. And the Belgium and the Congolese people, they took our groupement. But that's not what George is saying here. So let us continue. So today, as Banyarwanda are continuing to give that argument over this use of syntax, that they had a groupement that was called the groupement Budulege, they are lying, because George did not use the groupement, he used a groupement. That means a group of people were living in those villages, but he did not say that. Because, and then we show that they still live inside one or two groupements Bavira, and they were controlled by the chef de groupement, who was a royal family member, and will give their names. So the example of this example here, or the example like these, are showing that the Banyarwanda, even in 1954, they were still on constant move, while others were being added to their number by the colonial authorities and by their search of green pastures for the cattle, which were not, by the way, their own. So these here are an introduction of how and when the Banyarwanda entered or crossed into the Bavira country. And when they crossed in the Bavira country, they settled in some areas, but those areas were villages inside other villages. Were inside other villages. And so what West is explaining, and when he explains something, we have to pay attention. We have to read both West and the Persian and put them together so that we can have a general idea of what they're saying. So we'll come back to that. We'll now go, next time we'll speak about the region that they entered, the village where they entered, who was controlling that area, where that person was paying the tax. Was he paying the taxes to the Banyarwanda or to the Bavira? And then where did they get those cattle that West talked about on page 148? So again, we're gonna stop here for today, and we hope to see you next time. So don't forget to read the description and like, share, and hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.